After 10 years of dating, I was finally about to marry my CEO girlfriend. But then, her assistant photoshopped me out of our wedding photo and replaced me with himself, boldly projecting it on the big screen. Her friends immediately burst into laughter and teasing. This version looks so much more pleasing. I never realized Angelica and Joseph look so much like a married couple. Cut it out. Charles is such a jealous guy, he might totally lose it. I just gave a faint response, yeah, they do look like a couple. Turning my head to look at Angelica, I realized she hadn't even heard what I said. What I saw was her staring at that edited wedding photo with obvious shyness and fondness in her eyes. I let out a cold chuckle and walked out of the stuffy banquet hall. Then I dialed a number I hadn't contacted for ages, my father. Old man, I agree to the arranged marriage you arranged for me. ## chapter 1. When I hung up the phone, Angelica's incoming call popped up at once. Charles, can you stop being so dramatic? Our wedding is ongoing yet the groom's gone missing. Even if you're upset over that photo, Joseph has already apologized to you. What else do you want from him? I could only force a bitter smile. She hadn't even noticed when I slipped out of the hall. It was hardly unexpected. Her eyes had long only held Joseph. There hadn't been any space left for me in her sight for a very long time. Joseph explained everything. His mother was critically ill and only wished to see him married. He edited our wedding photo merely to cheer her up. Can't you be a little more considerate? I opened my mouth, yet no words came out. Whenever Joseph was involved, Angelica always expected me to be the mature one who yielded. When Joseph sabotaged a project I'd worked tirelessly to close, she told me to act mature and let it slide. Now Joseph ruined our wedding, and she still demanded I be reasonable. The truth was simple, she simply didn't care about the things that mattered to me. I order you to come back right this second. We still have an important client dinner after the wedding. With that sentence, she hung up the call. Angelica was furious. Normally, whenever she lost her temper and ordered me around, I'd rush over to comfort her. But not this time. I no longer wanted to obey her every word. Just then, my father sent over the address for the blind date of the arranged marriage. As I tapped to open the address link, a message from Joseph suddenly popped up on my screen. He sent a photo, Angelica wearing the wedding dress I'd picked out for her. Pressing her chest tightly against Joseph's arm, gazing at him affectionately. Along with a text message, Charles, you're a lucky guy, your fiancée has such a wonderful figure. Don't bother thanking me. I'm just doing you a favor to break her in. Oh, and by the way, I prefer the right side. It looks a little lopsided right now. After the wedding, remember to spend more time on the left to even it out. Even through the phone screen, I could clearly sense Joseph's blatant smugness. If this had happened before, I would have stormed back into the hall and thrown a punch straight at his face. But right now, I felt absolutely nothing. The only thought crossing my mind was, my hands felt filthy after touching Angelica today. This was far from the first time Joseph provoked me in such ways. So I didn't need to guess, the wedding photo incident was undoubtedly his scheme. Yet Angelica always believed every word he said without a shred of doubt. Even when I showed her all of Joseph's provocative messages, she'd pretend she hadn't seen them. Instead, she'd scold me, can't you grow up and stop throwing childish tantrums? The phone ring pulled me back from my tangled thoughts, and I'd answered the call without noticing. Angelica's furious scream blared through the receiver. Charles, what did you say to Joseph? He told me he was going to persuade you to come back, but now he's sitting there crying all alone. I couldn't hold back a dry laugh. Angelica, you can keep defending Joseph and put all the blame on me. I won't argue with you anymore, because I don't care about any of this now. This relationship ends here. Whatever he told you, just take it as the truth. Also, I'm never coming back. I hung up the phone after finishing the sentence. I raised my hand to flag down a taxi. Following the address my father had sent, I headed to meet the woman he'd arranged for me, Selena. She looked petite and delicate, yet her first words stunned me with calm poise. Charles, from what I've heard, you're supposed to get married today. So why are you sneaking out for a blind date behind your fiancé's back? I racked my brain, trying to find a proper way to explain everything. Meanwhile, Angelica's name lit up my phone screen for another incoming call. I was about to reject the call, but Selena spoke softly all of a sudden. It's fine, Charles. You can answer the phone. I glanced at her, then down at my phone. Angelica's contact name was still the sweet nickname I'd used for her. I steeled myself and picked up the call. Charles, are you deliberately humiliating me today? I've told you countless times, Joseph is merely my assistant, there is nothing between us.
It's just a wedding ceremony. If you're this hung up on it, I can hold another one for you. Stop being so ungrateful.
Even without turning on speakerphone, Angelica's voice was so loud that surrounding passers-by turned to stare at me. We'd been together for 10 whole years. For those 10 years, she held complete control over whether we would get married. But at this moment, I couldn't care less about the wedding at all. There's no need for another ceremony.
I wish you and Joseph a lifetime of mutual affection. I hung up and let out a long sigh, ready to explain everything to Selena.
Yet I met her eyes, a sly, amused smile tugging at the corners of her lips.
No need to explain anything, Charles. I'm quite satisfied with you. I've cleared all my schedules for this afternoon. Let's go get our marriage certificate first.
Chapter 2. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I sent a photo of our marriage certificate to my father. He immediately transferred a large sum of money to me, telling me to hold a grand, impressive wedding.
Just as I turned around, I spotted Selena fiddling with her cell phone. Curious, I leaned over and saw she'd posted our couple photo and the marriage certificate online.
She was busily replying to comments from her friends in the comments section. A natural, joyful smile spread across her face, so genuine that it left me momentarily stunned. I pulled out my phone, planning to read what she'd written in the post. But I quickly realized we didn't share any mutual friends. The only like under her post was from my father. Instead, I accidentally scrolled across a post from Joseph. It was a video recording the continuation of Angelica's wedding ceremony.
The caption read, "Spontaneous wedding, what a wild day for all of us."
In the video, Angelica walked down the aisle glowing with delight and firmly said "I do." I once thought that witnessing such a scene would break my heart completely, maybe even make me cry non-stop.
But now, I felt nothing at all. Only pure calm. Angelica gave Joseph's post a big like without hesitation.
Staff from our company flooded the comment area with congratulatory messages.
I always knew CEO Angelica and assistant Joseph were the perfect match. My ship finally sailed.
Exactly, unlike Charles.
Angelica is an elegant white swan, who honestly thought a toad like him was good enough for her. Neither Angelica nor Joseph issued any clarification or denial.
From the very start of our relationship,
Angelica never allowed me to post any official public content about us. Once, I secretly posted a photo of the two of us together. She instantly rushed to comment to clear up misunderstandings and later ordered me to delete the post entirely. Back then, I thought she simply didn't want her private life exposed to the public eye.
But now I saw the truth clearly, she had never truly loved me. While Selena went to change into a wedding gown, I received a phone call from the hotel manager. He told me Angelica had contacted him, stating she intended to proceed with the wedding and even requested for extra banquet tables.
Joseph's family and friends would all be attending. Since I'd handled all wedding arrangements personally, adding extra tables would push the budget far past my original plan.
That was why the manager called to confirm with me.
"No need," I said flatly.
"Cancel the original booking completely." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. "Also, please reserve your top-tier premium wedding package for me. I'll swing by later to finalize all the details." After hanging up, I turned to see Selena, who'd changed back into her wedding gown. Clad in pure white fabric, she looked like an angel who'd accidentally wandered down to the mortal world. When she walked toward me, I stood there dazed for a second. She reached out to hold my hand, lifted her skirt with her other hand, and excitedly dragged me toward the photo studio. Warm, bright vitality radiated off her entire body. On our way out, we accidentally bumped into a pedestrian. I hurried forward to help them stand, only to hear a shrill voice shout my name, "Charles." I took a closer look, it was Angelica's best friend. She stared back and forth between me and Selena, then screamed in disbelief.
"You bastard! I knew it! You vanished halfway through your wedding just to run off with your side chick. How could you treat Angelica like this? She stood by your side for 10 years and was about to marry you. None of Angelica's friends were decent people.
10 years ago, when I just started dating Angelica, they'd swarmed me together.
They'd wave Angelica's name around to pressure me into spending money on them to please her.
Once they found out I'd fallen out with my family, they immediately tried convincing Angelica to leave me. After Joseph appeared on the scene, no one jumped on his bandwagon harder than the woman standing in front of me right now.
I saw no reason to keep tolerating any of them. I let out a cold laugh and shot back at her.
All of you have been rooting for Angelica and Joseph to end up together, and now they've held their wedding.
Leave me alone from now on.
Make sure you pass my blessings along, may they live happily ever after.
Also, this lady beside me is my legal fiancée, not some random side chick. If you keep spouting nonsense, I'll make you regret opening your mouth."
With those words, I ignored her shrill yelling and led the slightly stunned Selena away.
The wedding photoshoot went extremely smoothly. Even though Selena had to change into multiple different outfits, she genuinely enjoyed every minute of the process. I couldn't help recalling the wedding photoshoot I'd once done with Angelica. We'd booked a full session with 4 different outfits, yet after just one set, she grew impatient. She cancelled the rest of the photoshoot and rushed off to go on a date with Joseph. I shook my head to push the memory away. I'd already resolved to take this arranged marriage seriously. The past needed to be left firmly behind me. After walking Selena back home, I bid her farewell and headed toward Angelica's apartment to pack my belongings. To my surprise, the passcode lock rejected my input at the front door. After several failed attempts, the door was pulled open from the inside. Standing there was Joseph. He wore my oversized casual shorts and the matching couple slippers Angelica and I owned. His hair still damp from a recent shower. When he laid eyes on me, a knowing smirk curved his lips. "Charles, you're finally back. Wasn't the door code your anniversary date with Angelica?" She worried I'd feel left out, so she changed the passcode to our anniversary instead. "You probably don't even know the date, huh? Here, let me show you."
He stepped sideways, conveniently clearing a path for me to walk inside. I ignored him and strode straight into the apartment. Only then did he close the door and follow me inside. As if he was desperate for me to lash out and hit him. Angelica must have heard the door shut, because she stepped out of the bathroom wrapped only in a bath towel.
"Joseph, didn't I tell you to grab a pair of panties for me from the bedroom?"
She cut her sentence short the second she caught sight of me.
Her entire face stiffened, clearly flustered and nervous.
"Charles, Joseph and I just finished a business dinner nearby.
He only came up to rest for a little while. Nothing happened between us, don't get the wrong idea."
Their ambiguous relationship was written all over every corner of this apartment. There was no room left for any so-called misunderstanding. Her underwear was hidden deep in a tucked corner of the wardrobe. And she'd casually ordered Joseph to fetch it for her without a second thought. It was clearly not the first time she'd asked him to do such a private errand.
An assistant who fetches his female CEO's undergarments, anyone with half a brain could tell exactly what kind of assistant he truly was. Sure, there's no misunderstanding at all.
A flicker of sarcasm flashed across Angelica's eyes as she straightened up,
slipping back into her usual arrogant tone. "Charles, what kind of attitude is this?
My best friend already told me you hired some actress this afternoon to take wedding photos with you.
You're only doing this to get under my skin, aren't you?
Well, I guess I've made you uncomfortable too now.
That makes us even. But don't forget, you ruined my wedding today and made Joseph cry.
Now go apologize to him.
Right this instant." This had always been how things went between us.
No matter who was right or who was wrong, I was always the one forced to apologize to Joseph in the end.
At first, I'd resisted. I'd pull out evidence and argue with Angelica.
But all I ever received in return was that same disappointed look, as she asked when I'd finally grow up. Every time I saw that disappointed expression, an irrational sense of inferiority would overwhelm me, anxiety gnawing away at my heart. I was terrified that she would leave me. Yet all my compromises only encouraged more shameless behavior from her and Joseph.
Glancing past Angelica's shoulders, I clearly saw the mess inside the bedroom.
Clothes both of them had worn that day were scattered carelessly everywhere. Angelica's bra and panties hung over the bedside lamp, and a torn pair of stockings crumpled beside the bed.
I let out a cold, joyless laugh. "Sorry to interrupt your honeymoon, sweet Angelica. We're completely done."
Chapter 3. Angelica stared at me in shock, her eyes blown wide open.
"What do you mean it's over? Are you breaking up with me?"
I locked eyes with her and repeated each word slowly and clearly.
"Angelica, we're done. Did you hear that clearly this time?"
This time, I was certain she'd caught every syllable, because she froze rigidly on the spot.
Joseph stepped forward, putting on his usual fake pitiful act. "Charles, it's all my fault. I insisted Angelica let me rest here after our business dinner. I never meant to ruin your relationship."
If I'd known, I would have just hailed a taxi and napped in the car on my way home. I was speechless at how two-faced Joseph could be. But before I could utter a single word, Angelica snapped at him first.
Shut up. Joseph clearly hadn't expected her anger to land on him, and he immediately shrank back timidly.
Charles, I know you're upset about everything that happened today.
Tomorrow, I'll hold an entirely new wedding for you. I promise nothing will go wrong this time.
I'll sort things out with Joseph, it won't interfere with tomorrow's ceremony at all.
With that, she turned and hurried back into the bedroom to get dressed, then dragged Joseph straight out the front door. Left alone in the suddenly quiet apartment, I let out a soft sigh. After packing all my belongings, I stepped out of the apartment Angelica and I had shared for 10 years. I didn't glance back once, not even a flicker of nostalgia. After all, my wedding with Selena was scheduled to take place the very next day. From that moment onward, Angelica and I would become two parallel lines, never crossing paths again. Perhaps it was the quiet anticipation stirring in my heart, but I woke up unusually early the next morning. I picked up Selena and escorted her to the hotel suite booked for her. She headed upstairs to get ready for the wedding ceremony. Meanwhile, I stood at the banquet hall entrance greeting guests alongside my father. Most attendees were business partners of my father and Selena's grandfather, very few were my personal friends. Not that I'd ever had many close friends to begin with. Selena's friends all showed up without fail, though. Whether on her request or of their own accord, every single one of them treated me exceptionally warmly and kindly. Everything proceeded perfectly, strictly following the pre-planned schedule. Once most guests had arrived, the wedding ceremony officially began. Standing center stage, a sudden wave of nervousness washed over me. But as Selena's grandfather walked her slowly down the aisle step by step, her smiling face soft behind the veil, my nerves gradually faded away. When he placed Selena's hand firmly into mine, a new weight settled in my palm, a responsibility I'd never known before. We followed the standard wedding procedure. I lifted Selena's veil, we recited our vows, and prepared to exchange wedding rings. Just as I was about to slide the ring onto Selena's finger, the grand hall doors slammed open violently. Charles! Today's our wedding day, why didn't you come pick me up? What the hell is all this supposed to mean? ## Chapter 4. I turned around and saw Angelica storming into the hall in a full wedding gown. Behind her trailed her parents, Joseph, and a large crowd of her extended family and friends. The hotel manager rushed forward to block them, yet he couldn't hold back the surging crowd. He was quickly shoved aside, stumbling awkwardly over to me to explain. Apparently, after I'd requested to switch wedding halls, he hadn't realized the bride would also be changed. So he'd notified Angelica of the new venue address. It wasn't until I'd finalized the updated wedding details with him later that he realized there'd been a massive misunderstanding. I waved off his frantic explanation, it wasn't entirely his fault anyway. My father stood up from his seat below the stage, silently shooting me a questioning glance. I gave him a small gesture signaling that I would handle the situation myself. Just as I turned to apologize to Selena, I caught the subtle signal of reassurance she sent her parents. Then she turned back toward me, her gaze steady and unwavering. I couldn't help but think to myself, if this were Angelica standing beside me right now, she would already be screaming at me without a second thought. I took a deep breath and turned to face Angelica once more. Before I could say a single word, she pushed past the security guards and charged straight up to me, slapping me hard across the face. Charles, haven't you made enough of a scene already? We already settled everything yesterday. I told you none of this would affect today's wedding, so what is this ridiculous stunt? Most of the guests present were elderly business associates of my father, so I couldn't afford to lose my temper publicly. I simply spoke in a cold, calm tone. I made myself perfectly clear yesterday as well. Angelica cut me off instantly. Right, you claimed you wanted to break up. This is just another one of your petty power games, isn't it? So you hired some random actress to fake a wedding with you today. I've seen this woman before, she's the one who took those wedding photos with you the other day, wasn't she? Before I could respond, Joseph cut in loudly. Exactly. Angelica saw straight through your cheap stunt, Charles. No need to keep pretending. Though I have to admit, the extras you hired look expensive, you really spared no expense for this act. Then he turned toward Selena, continuing his deliberate provocation. And you, young lady, come on now. I know times can be tough, but you shouldn't take every odd job that comes your way. This is a fake wedding. What if your so-called groom turns out to be some creep who drags you off on a fake honeymoon? That would be such a waste, wouldn't it? That was the final straw. A burning rage flared up inside me. Enough.
I forced myself to suppress the fury boiling inside me out of respect for all the watching guests. I reached into my pocket, pulled out Selena's and my marriage certificate, and unfolded it fully in front of Angelica. Look closely, Angelica. Everything between us is over. Allow me to formally introduce her to you. This is my wife, Selena. ## Chapter 5. As Angelica stood frozen in a daze, Selena tiptoed up and pressed a light kiss to my cheek. I hadn't expected her to do that, yet I maintained a calm expression, showing no surprise on my face. I glanced down at my watch. It was nearly time to resume the ceremony, so I took Selena's hand and began walking back toward the stage. Our wedding was about to officially start. As I walked past Angelica, she finally snapped out of her stupor and suddenly grabbed the hem of my suit jacket tightly. Charles, all of this is fake, right? You loved me so deeply, there's no way you'd simply leave me and marry another woman. I shot Selena an apologetic glance, yet she only returned a look that told me it was fine. Then I turned back to Angelica, my voice completely devoid of any warmth or emotion. Angelica, it's true that I once loved you, very deeply. But that love belongs entirely to the past. My wedding is starting, and my bride is waiting for me. Please, preserve a little dignity for your own sake. Still, Angelica clung tightly to my jacket, screaming hysterically. No, absolutely not. Back when you cut all ties with your family, I was the only one who stayed by your side through everything. Tell me, what exactly did I ever do wrong to you? I couldn't help laughing, not from joy, but from sheer disbelief. You stood by me? Do you even believe those words coming out of your own mouth? Do you want me to publicly list all the shady things you've done with Joseph before you finally admit the truth? She straightened her back all of a sudden, adopting an air of righteous indignation as she snapped back at me. Go ahead then. Tell everyone what could possibly be going on between Joseph and me. I've told you 1,000 times, he's merely my assistant. You're the one who's always irrationally jealous. Angelica truly believed she'd hidden everything flawlessly. If I hadn't caught the flicker of guilty panic flash across Joseph's face, I might have even doubted my own memories. At that moment, I was grateful someone had interrupted me before I could block Joseph's contact. Otherwise, all his smug, provocative messages would have been erased along with his chat log. I sneered and pulled out my phone, only for Joseph to lunge forward abruptly and clamp a tight grip around my wrist. Charles, come on now. Even CEO Angelica says there's nothing between us. If she says that, she has a clear conscience, right? I'm just a poor, ordinary assistant. Someone as outstanding as Angelica would never have any interest in a nobody like me. Besides, I'm a coward. Even if I wanted to act on anything, I'd never dare cross that line. I let out a dry laugh. They were supposed to be accomplices, yet they couldn't even get their lies aligned. I shot Selena a quick glance. She instantly understood my intent and stepped back several paces to give me space. Then I pulled my arm back sharply and slapped Joseph hard across the face. A crisp smack echoed through the entire banquet hall, freezing every guest in place for a split second. Joseph crumpled to the floor, clutching his stinging cheek, his face twisted in stunned shock. Ah! Angelica gasped and rushed over to kneel beside him, frantically checking his injury. Joseph, are you all right? Did you get hurt? Charles, what gives you the right to hit another person? Selena handed me a pack of wet wipes. As I wiped my palm clean, I looked down at the two of them with unbridled contempt. Angelica, you burst into my wedding uninvited, claiming I'm marrying the wrong person. You swear there is absolutely nothing romantic between you and this man. But the second something happens to him, you're the first to rush to his side, the most panicked person in the room. Don't you think that's just a little ridiculous? With every sentence I spoke, Angelica's facial expression twisted more and more out of control. Finally, she stood upright as if a sudden realization had hit her, then screamed at me. Fine. I'll admit it, I do have feelings for Joseph. But how does that conflict with the fact that I still love you? I have so much love to give. Can't I spare a small portion for someone else too? ## Chapter 6. For a split second, I was genuinely left speechless by her twisted logic. When I first uncovered the truth about Angelica and Joseph, I'd merely thought I'd misjudged her character entirely. But now, I began to wonder if I'd been completely blind for the past 10 years. We'd loved each other for a full decade, yet I'd never realized Angelica's mindset was this warped. But Charles is just an ordinary man. He loves wholeheartedly, so naturally he expects wholehearted love in return. Selena suddenly spoke up, pulling my wandering train of thought back into focus. I turned toward her with a grateful expression, and she responded with a faint gentle smile. I let out a long breath before addressing Angelica again.
That's exactly right. Loving whoever you choose is your freedom. I couldn't accept sharing your love, so we ended our relationship.
From now on, whoever you love, no matter how many people you care for, has nothing to do with me.
Yet Angelica still refused to back down.
But you're still the person I love the most.
Yes, I like Joseph, but nothing physical ever happened between us. I never cheated on you.
If there was an overhead camera capturing this scene,
it would definitely capture me rolling my eyes all the way upward. I'd reached my limit of patience, so I raised my phone. Joseph panicked and tried to stop me, yet I didn't give him the slightest chance.
I pulled up my entire chat history with Joseph and laid out every photo and video he'd sent me directly in front of Angelica.
Angelica's expression shifted rapidly from confused disbelief to burning shame, then unbridled rage. Impossible. These are all fake.
Charles, how dare you fabricate evidence just to break up with me and slander my reputation? But her voice grew weaker and weaker, until she abruptly spun around and kicked Joseph hard in the leg.
Joseph! Didn't I warn you never to let anyone find out about us?
How dare you send all of this directly to Charles?
Joseph seemed ready to burn all bridges completely.
He clutched the spot where she'd kicked him and struggled to pull himself to his feet. His face contorted with rage as he shouted back at Angelica.
So what if I sent them?
That coward over there never even dared to confront me after seeing all those messages.
Angelica fell into a brief stunned silence, clearly shocked by Joseph's sudden betrayal.
But I had zero interest in standing around watching their ugly argument unfold any longer.
If the two of you want to fight, take this drama somewhere else. Stop disrupting my wedding ceremony. With those words, I turned to walk back into the wedding chapel.
Just then, Angelica's mother rushed forward abruptly and grabbed a tight hold of my wrist.
No way.
Today, you either marry my daughter Angelica, or you pay back every single penny she's spent on you over the past 10 years.
Angelica's father quickly chimed in beside her. Exactly.
You're a useless parasite who leeched off my daughter for 10 whole years. She wasted her prime youth on you, pay us back. I nearly burst out laughing at their shameless greed. Seeing Angelica make no move to stop her parents, I asked them calmly.
So exactly how much do the two of you think I owe you?
Angelica's mother, thinking she'd seized a chance to extort money, quickly held up 3 fingers ready to state a figure. Angelica's father cut her off instantly, holding up 5 fingers and shouting first.
5 million. You lived off my daughter's money and resources. $500,000 per year for 10 years totals 5 million.
That sounds fair, doesn't it? I looked at the greedy, shameless expressions plastered across their faces and offered only a cold smile.
Fair? Fair my ass. Angelica's company was founded with 1 million yuan of my family's initial investment. I am the company's largest single shareholder. Yet for the past 10 years, I've only drawn a basic salary matching my job position.
That salary also covered all daily living expenses for both Angelica and me.
As the major shareholder, I trusted Angelica completely and allowed her full control over all corporate dividend funds. But now I have to ask, where exactly did all of that dividend money disappear to?
Chapter 7. Angelica jolted violently upon hearing those words and hurried forward toward me. Charles, my parents are just talking nonsense.
I never agreed to break up with you. Why are we even arguing about money?
I cut her off before she could finish her sentence.
That's enough, Angelica.
Our breakup is a finalized fact.
I hadn't planned to nitpick over the money.
But what I can never accept, what I will never forgive, is that you used my money to purchase a house for Joseph?
Angelica argued emotionally. What are you talking about, Charles? That house was supposed to be our marital home.
You always said once we got married, you wanted a place that truly belonged to us. So I bought it as a surprise for you.
The look I fixed on Angelica was identical to watching a hopeless clown perform, my voice utterly emotionless. Even now, you still think you can fool me? Angelica fell silent immediately.
Deep down, she knew exactly what she'd done. Yet she'd always assumed I would never take serious action, banking entirely on the fact that I loved her to act recklessly without fear of consequences.
None of that mattered to me any longer.
My wedding was about to begin, and I was stepping into an entirely new life. As I turned to leave, a sudden thought crossed my mind.
I glanced back and spoke coldly.
I may have been a coward once, thinking if I backed down and compromised, everything would turn out fine in the end.
But I don't think that way anymore.
The more I yielded, the more pushy and reckless you became.
Now I'm taking back everything I lost. Then I turned fully and walked back into the wedding hall. My wedding with Selena proceeded without a single hitch. During the banquet, I drank a considerable amount of alcohol. My father sat at the table below the stage, glaring at me every time he lifted his head, as if he wanted to march up and kick me. I knew exactly what he was worrying about, afraid I'd drink too much to perform our wedding night duties and ruin his hopes of a grandchild. Yet Selena stayed faithfully by my side the entire time, smiling softly and warmly without a word of complaint. Eventually, we were escorted back to our wedding suite. In a hazy, tipsy state, I heard Selena's gentle voice comforting me. "You've endured so much hardship all these years." Then I buried my head in her lap and cried all the suppressed sadness out of my heart. The next morning when I woke up, I was still wearing my formal suit, and Selena slept beside me leaning against the headboard. A heavy wave of guilt surged through my chest. At the same time, a quiet sense of relief washed over me, relieved I'd agreed to this arranged marriage my father had set up. After paying a visit to Selena's family, all the wedding formalities were fully completed. Next came the matter of settling all outstanding financial and corporate accounts. With the legal team my father sent to assist me, I headed over to Angelica's company. Angelica sat alone in her office, clearly distraught. Joseph had vanished without a trace. Apparently, right after they'd stormed out of my wedding hall that day, Joseph had packed up valuable goods and confidential project documents and fled. Among those stolen valuables was the property deed for the house Angelica had bought specifically for him. When Angelica laid eyes on me, her first instinct was to order me around as she always had. It wasn't until she spotted the team of lawyers behind me that she realized the real reason for my visit. "Charles, you promised not to create a scene at your wedding, and I kept that promise. Do you really have to disregard all the years we shared together?" I had always held the largest shareholding in Angelica's company. That fact had never changed from day one. Over the past decade, she'd diluted her own personal shares multiple times to fuel company expansion, yet she'd never touched my stock holdings once. That wasn't out of lingering affection for me, however. It was simply because even though the shares legally belonged to me, she held full operational control over them. I'd always followed every decision she made without question. She reigned as the unchallenged tyrant of the company. By diluting her own stake, she'd also avoided public criticism from outside investors. But the man she'd thought would never leave her side had finally been pushed to take a stand against her. Chapter 8. I made the decision to fully restructure and rebuild Angelica's entire company from scratch. Naturally, there would no longer be a position reserved for her within the enterprise. When Angelica received the news, it was as if she'd clutched her last remaining lifeline. She dropped to her knees right in front of me, begging desperately. "Charles, you still want to keep this company because it holds all our shared memories, don't you? Please think back on our past together. Can't you give me one last chance to stay? It's fine if you're already married to someone else. I can become your secret mistress. I've learned all sorts of tricks now. I'll behave myself, I'll keep our relationship hidden, I won't let your wife Selena find out. Please, Charles?" Up until that day, even after Angelica and I had become complete strangers, I'd never imagined she'd ever discussed me this deeply. Suppressing the strong revulsion rising in my chest, I spoke to her in a calm, steady tone. "If you could prove you possess the capability to properly manage this company, then perhaps, just perhaps, you might still have a chance. But now, that opportunity is gone forever." My father-in-law is a pure, unemotional businessman. Seizing Angelica's company was, in his eyes, a perfectly timed business opportunity, which was why he fully supported my actions. To be fair, Angelica did possess some business skill that helped raise the company to its current valuation, alongside my initial investment backing. From a purely profit-driven perspective, my father-in-law might have allowed her to continue managing the firm. Unfortunately for Angelica, he'd witnessed her outrageous, chaotic outburst at my wedding. He hadn't stepped forward to intervene that day, not because he didn't care, but because he'd wanted her, her family, and Joseph to make complete fools of themselves in front of every guest. He'd let them stage a full public farce just like clowns performing on a stage. I have no doubt he'd already mentally labeled Angelica as emotionally unstable, a massive business liability. No rational businessperson would entrust their enterprise to someone with such erratic, unpredictable behavior. After leaving a professional management team in charge of daily company operations, I left to pick Selena up. By pure coincidence, I ran into Angelica carrying a cardboard box of personal belongings as she exited the company building. I rolled down the car window and delivered one final reminder to her. As I told you before, I will hold you fully accountable for the unauthorized charges made using my credit card. You'd better track Joseph down quickly, otherwise you will be the sole person held responsible for this offense. The house Angelica had gifted Joseph counted legally as a voluntary donation. But the funds used to purchase it came from my personal credit card. If I filed formal charges for unauthorized use of my bank card, only Angelica would end up facing jail time. Yet I wasn't willing to let Joseph walk away scot-free either. Sure enough, when people face crisis, their ability to take action surges drastically. Only 2 days later, Angelica sent me a message saying she'd located Joseph. It turned out he'd been hiding inside the exact luxury house Angelica had bought for him. When we arrived to confront him, he'd just called an in-home massage therapist over to the residence. Angelica nearly exploded the second she laid eyes on the scene. She'd purchased that house hoping to play the role of a secret sugar mommy, building a luxurious golden cage for the man she loved. But she'd never imagined Joseph only cared about her money. He was even spending her funds to entertain other women behind her back. Fuming with rage, Angelica rushed forward to confront him. Yet Joseph, now viewing her as nothing more than a bothersome burden, dropped all pretense of politeness. Once a sugar mommy runs out of usable money, she's worth less than a stray dog on the street. Joseph hurled every insulting word imaginable at Angelica, chipping away at her self-respect and driving her to the brink of mental collapse. Though she still retained a tiny shred of rationality, she only ended up brawling physically with Joseph. And the massage therapist present called the police. Both of them, covered in bruises and swelling, were taken away by police officers. The message I received was sent by Angelica after the police prepared to release them. She'd finally gotten her phone back and reached out to me. Yet even after sending the message, she couldn't contain her rage. She got into another physical fight with Joseph directly outside the police station. As a result, the two of them were dragged back into the police station a second time. That was when I arrived at the station. The second Joseph spotted me, his first instinct was to turn and run. Perhaps the slap I delivered to him at the wedding had left a lasting mark, not only on his face, but etched deep into his memory. He'd learned firsthand what happens when the normally mild-tempered man finally snaps. I wasn't sure if the repeated beatings from Angelica had also left him traumatized around women. During this second round of police questioning, Angelica finally confessed that Joseph had embezzled large sums of company funds. The police took her statement extremely seriously. After further investigation, it turned out Joseph was a seasoned professional con artist. With his charming facial features and silver tongue honed over years of practice, he'd drifted between major cities scamming lonely women non-stop. In previous scams, he'd always acted cautiously, never allowing the victim's partner or boyfriend to discover his schemes. But with Angelica, he'd grown wildly bold. She'd protected him at every turn, even going so far as to attack me on his behalf. Back then, my blind, unrequited love for Angelica had convinced Joseph he could walk all over me and face zero consequences. Instead, every single one of his schemes spiraled into the worst possible outcome for him. Joseph had already contacted a real estate agent and planned to flee the country the instant the house sold. He'd never expected Angelica to track him down and get him arrested. What he truly failed to anticipate was that the real estate agent he'd hired happened to know another salesperson working within that residential complex. That salesperson feared being dragged into the fraud case due to the stolen credit card used to purchase the house, so he kept a close eye on the property listing status. The moment he found out the house was being listed for sale, he immediately passed all the details to Angelica. That was how Angelica managed to corner Joseph inside the house. In the end, Joseph was arrested on fraud charges and placed in handcuffs. By the time he is released from prison, at least 10 years will have passed. The house was seized and returned to Angelica. She sold it at a discounted price, covered the financial gap out of her own pocket, and respectfully returned my credit card to me. Only then did I agree not to press formal criminal charges against her. After that day, I cut off all contact with Angelica entirely. The next time I even heard her name spoken aloud was roughly 6 months later. Selena was pregnant by then, and she'd grown bored staying home every single day. I took her with me to visit the newly restructured company that had once belonged to Angelica. An old employee who'd worked alongside Angelica back then told me someone from the past had left a message for me. Before she could finish speaking another word, I raised my hand to stop her. Seeing her frustrated, confused expression, I wondered how much of Angelica's one-sided version of events was pure fabrication. But none of that mattered to me any longer.
I gently rested my palm lightly on Selena's growing belly. Those people belong firmly to the past, they should stay hidden in memories honestly. The new person who matters has stepped forward beside me, and I will never look back again.